I used to have a simple life. Whatever needed doing round the farm, I'd do it. Being the eldest son, it's tough. But at least we had a living, and our plates were never empty. Then, the war came. I lost everything overnight. The last thing I remember is Father pushing me away, yelling for me to run, to live. At first, I didn't know what to do. Then, I remembered. A story my mother once told me. A story about my uncle, Jordan. He made a modest fortune up north, in a peaceful valley far away from the war. For weeks I held on to that thought, until the valley from my mother's stories. I could see it. This is where I can start a new life.
Hello, and welcome to Medieval Dynasty, or Medieval Dynasty if you prefer. So this is, well, I must admit, this is a really interesting game. I've been playing it for quite a bit, and I'm really enjoying it. It's actually a survival game, but it's set in the medieval period. And it is very much different to what I'm used to playing. You know, it's not like some sort of like fantasy thing where you got, you know, end bosses and all this sort of stuff to do. And yeah, I mean, it's very, very different, and it's very interactive. I mean, the graphics are great. Granted, as I say, it's still in early access, so there's things that are still changing. The mechanics of the game, new things being added, things getting changed. That's handy. That was put out in a recent patch, for example, where you find these things here, like some overturned cart. That sounded like a cow. But yeah, I mean, you saw like the intro there, and basically it's a case of we've sort of like left our home because of the war. We've been told to come and see this supposed uncle that we've got. And what we've got is a sort of like a series of chapters. So there is a bit of a story element to the game, but it is very much open world. Go to the map. This is where we are at the minute, and it is a big map, I must admit. It takes you ages to get around. Later on in the game, when you start to get things like a horse, for example, that becomes easier, but yeah, we're nowhere near that. And one thing I've found is it's a very grindy game. There's a lot to do. You can actually hire NPCs to help you, but it's still, I'm finding it very grindy because we've got a series of skills. So we can train, learn how to do things, and we improve our character through skills. We also learn technology, so we learn how to do certain things. So for example, we'll be able to learn how to make a small wicker basket, for example. But it's, yeah, it can take quite a while. So it's not sort of like a game where you'll be finishing it in just like 2 or 3 days. And I do quite like that, I must admit, because it's just so interactive. So where we're starting is literally up here. We've got to go down to there. We've got to go and see. It says there, starting a new life, go and talk to the castellan. So if you actually have a look at the chapters here, it gives you, various information about things, which is quite good. It's a bit of a kind of a tutorial, as you're working your way through it to begin with. I do like that because you've got a compass, which shows you where, what direction you're heading in. And because you've got a map and you've got an indicator there to tell you where you are on the map, that's very helpful as well. You can actually set specific quests that you want to follow because you've got a journal in here, so you can pick out specific quests that you want to do, whichever one's the active one. That's what that exclamation mark is that's moving around on the compass. So at least it shows you like where you need to get to. But it's your usual sort of like survival game in the sense that, you chop things down, you build things. But it's got this really cool twist, I must admit, to do with the NPCs and so on. I mean, you can actually you know, you can build a family, build a complete, well, it says starting a new life, you build this entirely new lifestyle. So you're going to build your own village and you start your own trade process. It's really good, I must admit. You build, build tools and all sorts of things. You go on quests for people. But it's early access, so at this stage it's totally open as to what's going to be done with it. But at the moment, I mean, there's nothing really to fight per se. I mean, it's more a case there's animals out there that you can hunt, for example. But whether they start bringing in threats other than the animals, like wolves, for example, who knows? Because, yeah, it has been out for a while and there's quite a lot changed. So, for example, I've got things on me at the minute. Some of these things I can sell, so they've got a price against them. A lot of these things, the value that they have now might change in the future, because that's something that happened in the early game where you used to make certain things and be worth a certain amount, or you'd be buying things and they were worth a certain amount. They've been tweaking things. I think they're trying to strike a balance. So until they get to the full release, you just don't know. And I do quite like the inventory because you can filter it out. So by default, you go into the inventory and you just see everything. But then we're into tools, weapons, clothes, food, and then we're into any crafting items that we've got on us. Miscellaneous, so that includes things like your coins, for example. It gives you all sorts of information about your health, for example. So red there is for your health, so it is very much like a survival game in that respect. We've got to obviously stay alive. We've got to actually bear in mind, food. We've only got certain food reserves, so we've got to make sure we're getting food to eat. Water, we've got to make sure we're drinking regularly. We can get poisoned, we can get drunk. We've got climate issues and so on. I mean, this is to do with the armor levels and so on, how they're helping you. That one down there is actually to do with if you basically any order that you've got, basically as you start to get dirty, it's a case of it'll put people off if you really smell bad. It's they've thought a lot. But down in the bottom left, we've got some useful icons to keep an eye on. So down there we've got green, which is our stamina. So if we run around, for example, our stamina goes down. And I do like it if you sprint, it actually stays in sprint mode, so you don't have to keep the actual sprint key held down. The red icon or indicator is our health level, orange is our food level, and blue is our water level. But we really need to get this started, so I've got to go and see this castellan. This is the guy here, he's called Unigost. So we'll speak to him and then he'll basically get the game started. Because the idea is, if we look on this map, technically we can go anywhere on this map within reason, and then we can start to build our own village, if you will. One thing we can't do is build too close to another village. So there's all sorts of different places. I mean, you look at the size of this map, it takes forever to get around. It will get better later on when you get introduced to like horses, for example. But it takes a lot to do that. I was playing it for a long time and I still never got to that point. But we can build anyway, and I'm just thinking that we have to come back and see Unigost on a regular basis, because once we start building things, once we start owning land, we can just go out and get any land we like. But once we actually get started, every year we've got to pay taxes and we've got to come back to Unigost. So it kind of like pays to stay within reasonable distance. All these different little villages, if you will, that you see here that have got a little banner against them. There are people there where we can go out to recruit, people we can trade with, people we can get quests from and so on. So we don't want to be too far away from them. So there's a bit of a trade-off where, I mean, there's nobody living around here, for instance, so that's plenty of land, but you're going to be a long, long way from anybody. On the other hand, if you get too close, you're going to start running out of space. So I think when I first played the game, I was playing around there because we're in reasonably close distance to people. But I think I might move a bit further out, because out here is quite good because there's quite a few locations in that area. Most of the time I spent playing the game, I spent a lot of time getting things from these two, I must admit. And that was just because I was quite close to them. But I think I'm going to move a bit further out, because some of the things you can get around here, for instance, are stone, for example. So I'm tempted to stay closer to there. Up here, We've actually got a mine as well. So it's a case of, yeah, it'll put me a bit closer in the to some pretty good resources, I must admit. So I'm tempted to just build over there, but we really need to get the show on the road. So we'll talk to Unigos. Now, the thing is, they don't have any audio feedback. So they're just, it's like, it's just a simple quest dialogue basically here. So basically just asking when, what is it that brings us here? So nope, we're not a merchant, nor are we a pilgrim. That's who we are, Rasamir. And yeah, we're looking for our uncle, Jordan. Oh, okay. So this is not sounding good. So, okay, so in which case, what happened to him? Ooh, he was a great man. Oh, that doesn't sound good. So basically, Jordan was a trader. This tavern that we're standing next to, he's responsible for having built that. He built shops and all sorts, and that's the sort of thing we can do. So according to our mother, he was a wealthy person, though. Ah, right, okay, so he got killed. Okay. And he got killed by bandits. Okay, now the one thing is, last time I played this, I hadn't introduced bandits into the game, so that's something they may well actually start introducing to make life harder. Okay, so, oh, right. That's not good, because we came all the way over here to see him, but we can't, because he's dead now. Okay, so he's basically offering us the chance to build our own fortune here, but we don't know anything really. So it's a case of, well, what are we supposed to do then? And like he says there, he's now starting the game going, because he's saying to build your house, grow vegetables, start keeping. I'm sure that's supposed to be livestock, but essentially you just build up your own dynasty, and that's what's quite interesting about the game, is that we're actually going to be having children as well. We've actually got to go out and find a wife and actually start having children, because if we die, that's it. The game's finished. The idea is, I've never tested it yet, but if our offspring survive, they'll actually take over. So he's offering us land, but how much is it going to cost? And it's a case of nothing. So we can go out anywhere on the map, essentially, as long as we're not too close to another village. We can pick whatever land we like. The only thing, once we start building, like fields and buildings and so on, we then got to start paying taxes, which means we're then going to have to start getting into a trade system where we sell things to people, buy things to people. Yeah, it's a really interesting survival game. So what the suggestion is, first things first is basically build a house. So you can chop down the trees and we can build a house with it. We could put a roof on by getting the reeds from the river. Don't have any food, so as you say, there are vendors here. So at this early stage, we can actually get food from the people. We can buy food, but like he says, you can actually get mushrooms from the forest. There's actually berries out there as well during certain seasons, because that's another thing. This game, it's got like a day and a night cycle, but it's also got seasons. So okay, so how do we earn coins then? Okay, so that's where you can do the quests and so on. So he's given us a hammer, which is what we need to actually start building. So like it says, just going through how you get access to things. So you can get into the menu system using the tab key. To start doing crafting, you've got to press the Q key. And we've also got this interesting feature called an inspector mode, where we can actually kind of like, it highlights things, and it does get a bit better, I must admit, because we have skills that we can improve, technology we can improve, and yeah, we just get better over time as long as we survive. So it's starting us off, and the plan is basically we need to build a house, and it's telling us all the things that we need, all the resources we need to gather, but it also tells us we need to actually build or rather craft a stone axe. So if you go to press the key down here, handcrafting. Now, all of these things that have got a little red bag against them, it's a case of we can actually make these, we just don't have the resources. So one of the things we need to do is to actually make a stone axe. But to do that, you need 10 sticks and 2 stone. Of go back a bit, if you look at some of the buildings, for example, say buildings for animal husbandry, there's quite a few of these. They've all got, well, all of them in this case, they've got this little blue padlock, and it's a case of we need to unlock these. We need to reach a certain technology level, and so by doing things to do with, well, in this case it's go back to the buildings, go back to animal husbandry. So by doing things involving farming, we'll gain more experience, basically. So if we go into here when we start, this one here is to do with the farming. So you need about 5 points to unlock that one, 10 points to unlock that one, and so on. There's different sort of like technology levels. This is where if you start building, like, well, buildings literally, it tells you what you do there. We've just got to effectively just start building stuff. Over on the survival one here, this is where you develop that one by doing hunting animals, setting traps and fishing. The building one is by building. Farming is by doing farming sort of thing, so that's whether you're farming or breeding animals. Then we've got the crafting one, kind of like crafting, I call it production technology. But that's where we do crafting of items or cooking of food. The skills is kind of similar. So you've got a farming one over there. You've also got a kind of like a survival one. So there's a bit of a mixture going on between skills and technology, I'm finding. But it's a case of do all these different types of things and you start either getting better skills or better at technology, and as you progress you just get better throughout the game. But what we've got is all of these people around who are sitting next to a fire, and these are NPCs we'll later be able to recruit. So if I hold the Alt key down over those people's sort of like heads, if you will, it'll show you like the skill level these different people have got. And I know early on in the early access game, very early on, these skills are much higher. So far the highest I've seen is about 3, for example. So that's the guy on the right, his skill level is about 3 in farming, 3 in crafting. One thing to bear in mind is by keeping that Alt key held down while I'm in inspector mode, I'm burning up stamina, so that's something to bear in mind. The guy on the left, best he's got is about 2. And what we've got to do is we've actually got to talk to these people. As long as you can get them into well, I would say like we started off, we've got to improve the approval, and by default you're at like 50%. Now I'm not going to do that now because the thing is, it's a case of I don't have anywhere for them to live, I don't have anything for them to do, and until I get to that point there's no point recruiting anybody. They won't join you until you've got a house, until you've got a certain dynasty level as well. That's another thing you've got to develop by doing things, quests, you gain dynasty levels. So yes, there's a lot to do, but fortunately the game kind of gives you a bit of a hand-holding to start with, where it's giving you these chapters, do this, do that, and yeah, it gets the things going. So we're just getting warning here that we're running out of water. So the first thing I'm actually going to do is, I'm just going to go down to this, this stream here. So down here, for example, we can just go and get water. So we can drink that. You can get water skins later on. So you've got to hold the E key down in my case. I'm not changing any of the default settings. And then what you can also do is collect reeds. Now, we actually need 20 straw, but if I collect reeds, it actually becomes straw. So that's a way to get that. And the first thing we literally have to do is to build our own house. We'll build houses for the actual NPCs that we recruit as well. So there's quite a lot to do in building this dynasty, I must admit. So while I'm here, I'm just going to grab enough straw. So we've selected that, and I like that. It's actually taken that off of our list of to-do things. We also need to collect sticks. There's different ways. You've got small little saplings like this. We can actually collect those. Now, if you select these ones, you'll get quite a few sticks. So if I collect that one, I've got 3 sticks. But you've also got sticks that are lying on the ground, so you can just pick up individual sticks. So this is a lot quicker doing it this way. We need 10 sticks, okay, so we've got enough sticks. Now another thing it says is collect stone. So if you look around on the ground, there's actually little bits of stone lying around that you can pick up. During the winter, because like I say, we've got seasons. At the moment, we've got like a little green tree, and it's spring, as far as I can recall. If we go to the map, yeah, it tells us we're in spring. The map is really good in the sense, yeah, it shows you what's on the map, but it also tells you like this is the temperature, this is the season we're in, this is the time of day, this is the actual year we're in, this is the current king that we've got, or monarch. You've got to get pretty far into the game before you get involved in dealing with a king. There's all this neutrality stuff going on with a king, and oh yeah, there's so much to do. You've got all these little filters showing you what's on the map, so you can see these little buildings and so on. Now the little exclamation marks, these are actually where there are quests that you can go and do. So I'm just actually going to head back just out of curiosity. Because you can see like there's an exclamation mark here, and it's kind of drifting towards the easterly point, and that's white because it's not the active quest, but at least it tells us that, you know, there's somebody around here that wants a quest. Oh, what was that? That sounded like a goose. So somebody here needs a quest. It could be Jan. Ah yeah, so Jan here has a quest for us, so we'll find out what that is. Tell you what, one thing I'm going to do, I'm going to save the game. You can press F5, which is a quick save option, because the problem is sometimes you'll be given a quest and you just cannot do it. It's just not possible. You haven't reached that certain technology level. And the trouble is, if you don't complete a quest, well, yeah, you get a negative Dynasty experience. You lose Dynasty. If we go over to our technology management, our skills, our inventory, somewhere in here, it tells us our age on this one here. Could be somewhere along the way we'll start to learn what our Dynasty level is. I'm just trying to remember what it was, but yeah, I'll find out once we get some. But I'll just ask him a question basically. So it's, yeah, there's no, you know, audio feedback, but what we can do is you can either talk to him to improve your approval. So like you would select option 2, for example, you know, hey, do you have a minute? You can start entering in a conversation. In this case, I'm just curious to see what kind of quest he's got. So I'm going to select option 1, which is for the actual quest. Terrell Storm. So he wants us to gather some resources, and he'll then use those to build something, which is fine. But it's a case of he'll pay us back, and we'll get a reward for it. So that doesn't sound too bad with its resources. So I'll say, okay, I'll help with that. Now, if I go into the journal under house rebuilding, right, catch is he wants 16 sticks and 3 logs. Now, I'm not at the point where I can make logs, but the thing to bear in mind is we'll get 30 Dynasty reputation, but we'll also get 20 building technology. So the technology, we can do that ourselves. We can build up our technology XP, but by doing quests, you can also get it as well. So that's going to be useful. Now, I'm not too bothered about this one because I need to make logs anyway to make a house. But that just gives you some idea of what the sort of we're going to do, why these quests are very useful. So I mean, sometimes you'll get particular items. They'll give you something. Might give you tools, for instance. They might give you money. There's all sorts of different things you can get by doing this. Now, one thing we need to do first actually is a stone axe. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select Q, go to there. I've now got the resources, so I'm going to make a stone axe, because I can actually solve his problems while I'm here. Right, so if I go back into my inventory, I've got a stone axe, so I need to equip that, and I'm going to put that in slot 1. So you've got to be able to use an item, you've actually got to put it into a slot, and I'll just well, into like a hot bar, if you will. So I can actually start chopping things like trees down with my stone axe. So there is durability on these tools. They're going to wear out, so I've got to just keep basically hitting this tree till eventually it falls down. Then I've got to hit it again and then that it kind of chops off quite a you know, like the branches and so on. And then what we've got to do is chop the tree up, and it chops it into the logs. So I can pick up, in this case I'm getting 4 logs. One thing to bear in mind is there's only so much we can carry. So while I'm here, I think I may as well get that quest out of the way. So I'm going to make this one the active quest. So now it flips over. So we need, it says we've got 0 of 3 logs. Now that's interesting, because I've got 4 on me. Ah, that's the 0 is in terms of how much we've delivered to him. So I've got 6. So it's, well, in terms of the logs, it's saying we've got 4 logs. He wants 3, and we've got the potential to, well, he wants actually, yeah, he wants 3, but we've got 4 on us. Don't need any more logs, but I do need these little sticks. So at the minute we've got 7, and he wants 16. So I'll just pick up some more of these, and then we'll finish that quest off. I really should be actually focusing on the actual house, but it's a case I thought I'd just show you about these quests first. So I'll make a quick dash. And you'll notice that because this is the active quest, it's highlighted with like a yellow exclamation mark. At this sort of like early stage, we're not making our own food. We are creating, we actually do have quite a bit of food on us. Bear in mind this stuff does spoil. And it's a case of, yeah, if that spoils, it can actually poison you. Eventually it rots. But let's get this one finished off. So right, okay, that's pretty straightforward. Here's all your materials. Thank you. So it's automatically saved that, I noticed, which is quite useful. Food, right, okay, it's warning us because we're running out of food. So while it's in the spring, you can actually gather things. There are actually berries out there in the forest, but you can't eat them. They'll actually poison you. They're not, they haven't ripened yet, so you can't touch berries, but you can at least eat mushrooms. You only get so much food back from them. You can actually go out hunting wildlife as well. So that's another way to do it. Now I need to, it's actually asking me to chop down 5 trees, but it probably hasn't taken into account the fact that I used up some of that logs to actually, you know, do that quest. But it's not too bad. I mean, you know, you're getting a little direction, you know, directional signs here as to where to go, but just look at the map and it pretty much tells you where you are, the direction you're heading in and so on. There's just tons of places I could go, but I think for this playthrough I'm going to head over to here because I know there's some rocks around there that we can later mine, and there's actually a mine up here that we can get to. At least I'm assuming. It's a while since I've played it because there's quite a few things that changed since I last played it. Now down here we've got mushrooms. Now at the moment with this inspector mode I can't see anything, but as we get better in this with our skills, I'll be able to start seeing these mushrooms, for example. So that's useful. So just by gathering things we actually gain experience. So it always pays to just keep doing that. Stone's pretty tricky to find in this sort of season. They look a lot better and a lot easier to spot in the snow. But here we've got berries, but the trouble is if I collect these berries, as it warns you there, these are unripe berries. So I go into the food section and look under those. It tells we'll get half a 0.5 food back, but we're at 20% risk of being poisoned. So I'm just going to drop them. I'm going to drop all of them because I don't want to risk getting poisoned. So there's some more mushrooms around here, so I may as well grab a few of them, and then I can just eat these mushrooms. So these are okay. We'll get +1 food. You can also sell them back to the actual to the vendors as well if you want to, but you can see they're not worth a great deal. So, and we don't get a great deal of food back. That's the only catch. So I'm going to do a bit more sprinting because I've got quite a distance to cover. The only thing to bear in mind is, yeah, we're going to have to keep coming back to here. Because once we start building up this village, we're just going to have to keep paying taxes each year. What I've noticed, I don't know if it's changed since I last played it, but technically you're supposed to pay your taxes each spring. you can let it slide and pay it later in the year, I've noticed. Because all that happens is you end up rolling over into debt. If you don't pay the tax off each year, you end up with a debt against your name. So you have to pay so it's a case of the next year you've got to pay the debt and you've got the taxes to pay for. I suppose that's not too bad because you've got quite a bit of leeway. You've got quite a bit of room before the game will just stop. So you can get quite heavily into debt if you particularly want to, but yeah, if you can do, it's a case of going at a relatively slow pace so you can afford to pay the taxes off. So we're not too far off. Just trying to get my bearings because we're going to cross over a little bridge here because there's a little outlet into that lake there, or river part if you will. The only thing I'm going to have to bear in mind is, I don't know if it's changed, but there might be wolves in this area. So that's something else, because last time I was playing I was building over there because it was quite closer to where Unigost is. Oh, we're getting warnings about sleep. To be honest, it doesn't really matter. I've found it doesn't really make that much difference. If you sleep, you'll get a bit of like health back. But you can play this game if you want. It's very much an open game, so if you want to, you can actually just keep playing. All the NPCs, everybody else will go to sleep. But if you want to, work 24/7, that's entirely up to you. It doesn't seem to make any difference. I think I'll get some water while I'm here. I don't think we've got too far to go. Right, so just get that. But I do need food. Otherwise we'll starve, and that's not good. But I must admit, I really like the visuals on this because it's it's early access at the moment. So there's still, I don't know, who knows how long they're going to be keeping this up, and they've been adding quite a few good things and tweaking things every now and again. But it is very much a very interactive game, and I do really like it. Now where are we at? Oh, we're almost there. So if I want to kind of like improve this character, get better at things, I've just got to basically go around harvesting things, chopping things down and so on, making tools. Now, as far as I'm aware, if I get somebody else to do it, I will get kind of like some of the experience for it, just not as much. So that's something to bear in mind, because it's an interesting game in that you'll be able to get so far on your own, but after a while it's a case of you need things done. So it's useful to have these NPCs, because then they'll be able to make your food for you. They'll be able to make some tools for you while you're off, doing quests and so on. So there you go. Just by going around picking things up and so on, I've gained a skill level. So we've got a skill level in survival, so that's gathering and fishing. So we've got at this stage what we've got is, this is tier 1, then 2, 3 and 4. In order to get to tier 2, you've got to be able to get tier 1 these skill levels first, and so you can't just suddenly like pick tier 4 for example. We've got to pick something in tier 1 and you just got to work our way up. The good thing is we can reset these later on. So what are the choices? Well, you've got like survival knowledge, for example, where we'll start to get more experience from survival. They're the things we do, like survival, gathering and fishing. Insensitive means I'll be able to tolerate the temperatures more. Iron liver means I've got a higher resistance to poisoning, but I'm more interested in that one because it'll speed this whole process up. Every time I go out and gather something, I'll get more experience for it, and then by assigning up one of the points to that particular tier there, I've now unlocked tier 2. So tier 2 is survival sense. So this is really useful, I must admit. There's only one level, but it's a case of I'll then be able to see like mushrooms, feathers and herbs, which makes things a lot easier. Because at the moment I don't see anything. I'll see things about people, but I won't see things like mushrooms that are out there. So here's some mushrooms, for example. They'll pop up on that little inspector mode, which is really good. Now I do need some more food. Fortunately, we do have some food with us. I mean, blimey, I've actually got 16 of those, so I can really boost my food. So it goes all the way up to 100. One thing to bear in mind is we've got 3 days in a season. That's the default setting. Once this day ticks over, or if you sleep, you'll roll over to the next day. And when you've actually reached day 3 and it rolls over to effectively what would be day 4, you're into a new season. Now, when that happens, based on the last time I was playing this, it actually forces you back to wherever your home is. It resets your food meter, your water meter, health meter and everything. It's kind of like resets a lot of things, which is quite good. So when you get to the final day of a season, there's no real rush to keep your food levels and everything topped up. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to build out here somewhere. I'm just trying to find where I'm at. So I've kind of overshot it a bit. So we should be close to a bridge. There's a bridge there and there's a bridge there. So I think I'll build it over here. I mean, you'll see a lot better in there when it's daytime, because things start to get really dark. Now, what I can do is I can build a torch. It just needs 1 stick and 10 straw. Of course, that means I'm now going to have to get more straw. Build a house. So let's see. So there's our simple torch. As it turned out, I already had one. Now that doesn't actually go into a slot as such, but it's a case of it lights up and it makes things a bit easier to see. So I think that's probably enough. I mean, I just want to be relatively close to the bridge, that's all. Right, there's one of the main bridges there. So there's where the road splits. So I'm going to build it. One thing I want to bear in mind is like the palisades at some point further down the line, if they start introducing like these so like bandits, for example, at some point, or they start having like the wildlife attack you, I'm going to need to be able to build palisades. So I want a bit of room. I mean, it doesn't really matter because you can build these buildings and then you can always tear them down and move them around. So that's not too bad. So I think I'm just going to, just for the sake of getting started, I'm going to start here. So I need to actually start chopping down trees, because one thing you can do is you can select a building, and at this stage all I know is how to build a simple house, but I don't have the resources. So it's saying I need 6 logs. So I'll come out of that, I'll select my my axe. Now I do quite like the fact that it's allowing me to keep the torch going, so at least I can see what I'm doing. So I need, now the amount of logs that you get back from a tree do vary. So these are, what are these? Birch. So these are birch trees. So I'll just chop that one down. Now as far as I recall, I only get 3 logs from a birch tree. Oh, I need to chop it up. I still need to chop it up. What am I talking about? Right, so that's 1, 2... Okay, I only got 2 that time. Could have sworn you used to get 3. Right, anyway. I need to chop some more down. And it's not too bad when you're on stone to begin with. But just the trouble is they just don't last as long. And you'll get a lot better like tools later down the line when you start learning how to make iron, for example. One of the things they introduced, which is interesting, then they introduced a sort of like intermediary sort of stage where you can make bronze and copper stuff as well, which is interesting. Whereas when it started, it was pretty much going from stone to iron, and you used to have to actually basically purchase an iron pickaxe at one point when you needed to start collecting stone and iron itself. You needed to actually go out and purchase an actual iron pickaxe, and there was only one place you could get. Last time I checked, I think they changed that, and it is possible to get a free one. Now, we're getting a warning there about we're carrying too much, and you can see there's like a little weight icons popped up in the bottom left corner. So that's something to bear in mind. And at this stage we're moving a lot slower, so I can't sprint, for example, because we're overweight. But at least what I can do is I can start building a house. So I've got enough resources. These aren't unlocked. As we get better, these we'll be able to build better houses. So we'll just build ourselves a house. So you get this like blueprint, if you will. Tell you what, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a road, because I want to build things in a relatively straight line. Well, I don't particularly have to, because what I can do is I can build a road off the main road, if you will. So it doesn't actually cost any resources. So when it's red you can't put it down, when it's green you can. So we'll put that first marker point down. Now as I move, you can see it's stretching out further and further. There'll be a certain distance, I'd imagine, before it just suddenly stops and says, nope, can't go any further. Oh, heck. Oh, that'll do. That's interesting. It doesn't seem too fussed. I thought at some point it would sort of like suddenly stop, because that's what it used to do. That's quite useful, that. I mean, I'm coming out further and further and further here. So I put that down there, and you can see we've now, because I've then clicked it, we've got this big long road. So I can use that as a kind of a marker point to now build my buildings from. So there's the road over there. And I'm just thinking there's like a certain area where I want to be able to build a wall around. So if I give me some sort of pointers. Now, the thing to bear in mind is that didn't cost me any resources to build that. So that's quite useful. So there's another road off there. I'll run that one in that direction there. So that gives me some sort of idea. So the idea is I'll probably want to build a wall that follows that ground there. Now, I don't suppose it really matters where I put this. I could put it anywhere at this stage. As long as I put the wall on that side, then everything's inside. So that's a kind of like the idea is I'm going to have a footpath that goes around the area. That's the plan. So I really just need to put this house down. And it's no use picking them. I need to build a building. So build a little house. I'll try and line it up with the actual road here, so we're actually next to the road. So when it goes red, you can't build it there. When it's green, you can build it there. That's not too bad. So I'll put that there, and it just basically puts a frame down. So what I've now got to do is I've got to switch over to the hammer, because that's what you use to build with. So to build the actual house itself, or any building, when you go up to it, close up to it with the actual hammer, it tells you, because there's all different sections you need to make. So that, for example, that's where the door is going to be. This is going to be a wall with a window. This is just going to be a wall. Then up there we've actually got our roof. So you can see the roof needs logs and it needs straw, whereas the walls, they need logs and sticks, for example. But you can actually change it. I mean, at this stage, unless I do anything, it's going to be a wattle wall, which means it's just basically sticks. But what I can do is I can actually change this. So if I press E to edit, so this is just a basic wall. So if I go into edit mode, I can change it to be a wall, I can change it to be a wall with a window, I can change it to be a door. But if there's already a door, let's see if it'll let me do it. Yeah, it's saying the building's already got a door, so I can't turn this into a door, but that's the potential. You can change it to something different. Now, once you've decided what it is you're actually going to make there in that section, you can do something slightly different. So that's the default, which is the wattle wall. Then there's a wooden wall, and then there's a stone wall. Now, these are just sticks. and they're not going to last as long. You're going to have to repair these, because that's another feature of the game, as things wear out and break, and you're going to have to, typically it's like after like each season things start to break and fall apart, and you're going to have to start repairing them. So you could go with a stick option, you can go with a wood option, or you can go with a stone option. At this stage, it's kind of like tempting to go with those, but the thing is, I'm going to replace this anyway with a bigger sort of house. This is just a temporary house, because each house gives people a certain amount of morale, and you want your NPCs to have more morale. And the better the building, well, yeah, the higher the morale it seems. So I'm just going to start off with a very basic house, and then what I'll do is then I'll replace that with a much better house. So that's the plan. I don't want to spend too much, resources building this. I'll get quite a lot of like experience doing it, but yeah. So I think like it says there, it's got higher durability and heat retention, whereas this has got the lowest. But yeah, at this stage, I just want to get the game the ball rolling, as it were. So what you can do is, once you've gathered resources, it's just a case of you hit that, it actually uses up a resource to build that section, and you've just got to keep repeating until you've actually finished it. Usually you tend to stop when there's only one left. I don't know why, but it's kind of a strange feature, should we say. So yeah, you just keep hitting this until there's only one item left to actually finish it, then you stop. So yeah, so that's that one done. So I've still got a log there. It looks like I'm gonna have to get some more logs. Right, so I don't have any logs, but at least that allows me to use the sticks up there, so that's a good thing. And then once I build this kind of like starts the process going, where I'll then move into a new chapter, because each chapter gives you a series of different things to actually do. Right, okay, I don't have an actual torch. So turn that torch on. So I need to collect more sticks. So it is a very grindy game. Just as like any other survival game would be. So it's a case of just going around gathering all of the resources that you're going to need to make this building, and then we'll be able to move into the next chapter. Now, as far as I recall, that actually wants more logs. That's the trouble with this particular area, is most of the trees are actually birch trees, so I'm not getting that many logs, I should say. There are other types of trees out there, they're much better for this sort of stuff. But the appeal of this place is we're not too far from some of the main actual villages that are out there. But there's also some stone nearby. And this is stone that you don't just pick up like a stone off the floor, this is stone that you actually mine. And I can actually assign an NPC, for example, to do that for me if I wanted to. Chop that tree up. Let's get some more logs. So I'll just use my hammer. So with the hammer it's not just about actually making things with it. You can actually use it to repair things as well. You can use it to upgrade things. So I don't have that much straw, so I'm going to have to get more straw, it seems. Okay. Oh, we've got plenty of sticks, so we're okay there. So it's quite interesting, I must admit, the way they give you this sort of like, kind of like blueprint for a house. Oh, that needed logs, and even that needed logs. So there's another wall, we can do that one. So it's mostly logs, it seems. Logs and straw that we're going to need. Now, interestingly, you can actually make your own straw, but things like the reeds out there, they'll grow back after a while. Well, they do respawn, so that's quite useful. Right, so I'll grab that log there. There's a log there. We'll chop this one down. Now, trees are supposed to regrow. Now, I must admit, I haven't actually seen that. Now, I don't know whether that's because I've chopped this tree down, and you can see it says it's leaving a stump. And what I used to do is actually clear the actual stump out. So what I'm going to do, just out of curiosity, is I'm just going to leave these stumps in. I'm going to see what happens. The only drawback with stumps is you can't build over them. So you're kind of stuck with them once you've created them. Right, so that needed a log. That needs 2 logs. That needs a log. So that still need more logs then. Chop another tree down. Seeing this stone axe, it's almost worn out already. But either way, I mean, it's a case of by doing all this, we're just gaining more skills. So it takes a while, but it's a case of there's still a benefit to it. I mean, you can get NPCs to do this sort of stuff later on. Oh, there we go. We've unlocked a new building just by going around and chopping all this stuff down. So the game actually prevents you doing certain things because they're locked out, and you've either some of them you can actually pay for as well. Blueprints to be able to make certain items, for example. Or it's a case of you need certain amounts of technology. Now I think that must be some... Yeah, that looks like some reeds over there. One thing I've noticed is you don't drown. This is extremely shallow. Oh, straight up, I'm running out of food. Let's have a look, see what we have got. I'll eat some dried meat. That gets us... Oh no, that only gets you 5. Okay. So dried meat will last a lot longer than, say, like raw meat. So that's something to bear in mind. So it always pays to actually cook your food. Right, so I've got 19 straw, so that might be enough, we'll see. But no, I mean, I can just literally walk across rivers and I don't seem to drown at all. So it's, yeah, you've got a bridge there, but it's not much point going all the way over there just to get across. So that's quite useful in the sense that you've got all those reeds over there to get yourself straw to get started. And it will grow back. So that's a good thing as well. So we're still at the point where I need to finish this off. I think this is going to need some more logs though. Right, so that needs a log. That's done. Right, so I'm going to have to chop another tree down. Oh wow, I do need some more straw, it's true. Right, okay, so I'll chop another tree down. That'll get me 2 more logs. Timber! As far as I'm aware, I don't think you actually get hurt if that lands on you. While I've been playing, I've never taken any damage from a tree falling on me. Just out of curiosity, let's see what happens if I do. See, that's still in play. Right, which direction are you going to fall in? Yeah, it landed on me, but it didn't matter. But I've tried it no matter what direction I actually hit this tree in. It doesn't make any difference. I can't seem to determine which direction it's going to go in. And I don't think it makes any damage if it lands on a building either. So they haven't put that into the game. Right, so I'm going to have to make a dash out there and get some more resources. Now, it's 4 o'clock in the morning, so we're into day 2. One thing I'll say is if you're going to go out to get quests, it seems to be you've got to finish any quests that you accept, you've got to finish them within the season. It doesn't matter if you pick them up on day 1. As long as you finish them within that season, then you're fine. So that's something to bear in mind, especially if it's a case of some of the quests that ask you to kill a certain number of animals and a certain type of animal. And some of them will ask you to do it at night. So the trouble is, if you accept that quest on the 3rd day, there's always the risk that you won't get it finished, or you might forget about it. And if you roll into a new season, what then happens is you get punished because it takes away some of your dynasty rating. The goal is there's certain things that you need to unlock by having dynasty. The more dynasty points you have, the more people you can recruit and that sort of stuff. So it's a case of, yeah, you don't really want to fail a quest. So that's one of the reasons I like to do like a quick save first, because you can always roll it back in case it goes. So there you go. So we've completed chapter 1 now, and now we're at chapter 2. So just out of curiosity, let's see if I can find this, because it's somewhere in here. It tells me what my dynasty rating is. Oh, there it is. It's there. So it's under management. So our dynasty reputation at the moment is 40. This tells us how much like wood we're in demand of, how much food is in demand, how much taxes we owe versus how much debt we owe. At this stage, I'm at the stage of being a hermit. I've got one person and I can build up to 4 actual buildings. As that dynasty reputation goes up, this will increase as well. We'll be able to get more people as well. So that's basically a case of once these two in particular, once you actually build up your village and you've actually started recruiting people, there'll be a certain demand for a certain amount of wood, for example, demands for certain amounts of food. So that's things you need to bear in mind. If you're not producing enough wood to meet the demand, yeah, that can cause problem. But food in particular can, because I think what happens is the actual people will leave. So resource storage. So we've unlocked that technology, but we haven't gained anything. If we get to this stage here, where this one here allows us, well, this particular level here allows us to unlock the actual storage building. This one here allows you to unlock the woodshed, and then what you can do is you can pay to learn these blueprints. So one is to make like a simple stick fence, one is to be able to make a simple wooden stool. The thing about these is, yeah, it costs you money, but these ones, yeah, this is more like decorative than anything, because what I found is you can't contain the animals. When you start rearing animals, they just tend to wander off unless you completely fence them in. They'll find, they're very clever, I've found, where they can just, you can put in sophisticated little sort of like little pathing with its fences. They'll still find a way around it. They're extremely clever. These ones still quite a ways to go on that one. We're nowhere near doing the farming. We haven't actually started to craft anything yet, cooking or anything like that. I haven't started like getting like raw meat, for example. But the good thing is, at least it's, you've got a rough idea of what you need to do. So these are the next steps to get this chapter done. Unigust, he's got some stuff for us, it seems, so we can go and talk to him. But the key thing is I've got about like 2 days. We're pretty much into day 2 by the looks of it. But at least I've got a house. So if I go into this little house, I'll just put that away. So in a small house, you've got a bed and you've got a double bed. You also get a small campfire. Now, in order to light that campfire, you need a torch. You don't have to actually have the torch in your hand or anything. I can just light it. As long as I've got a torch on me, I can light that. And then there's various items that I can cook. You can see all of these though are unlocked at this stage, so none of these things I can actually make until, well, yeah, some of them will require all sorts. You've got to start growing mushrooms or onions, for example, or buying them. You need to start having chickens or ducks, for example, that produce eggs. There's all sorts of things you can make there, but if we go down to the stone campfire itself, with that we can actually cook meat. Cook salted meat. You'll be able to cook fish, salted fish, specifically perch, specifically pikes, specifically roach. So there's different things for different types of fish, it seems. So there's 2 different things. One's the cauldron and one's the actual campfire. We've also got a chest here, so we can actually keep, we've got our own storage, so we can keep things that we don't need to carry around all the time. Now, one thing I should do is put this hat on, because I just happen to find that. The good thing about that is, yeah, it boosts your heat and cold protection. So that'll be useful. Now, I'm nowhere near doing farming, so I'm just going to put that away into storage for now. That was just a lucky find. But what we could do is at night I could actually sleep if I don't want to keep working, because it's it's an open game. If I want to just work 24/7, that's perfectly fine. If I want to do that, On the other hand, I can sleep and then just move on to the next day, for example. So, still lots to do. We're into chapter 2 next. We'll pick that up in the next episode.